When we talk about buck breaking, we have to understand that buck breaking is a show of power, it's a show of dominance. So we can't talk about buck breaking without talking about power.
When we look at the domination of Black people by the dominant society, what we are in essence seeing is that this society wants to ensure that we are not able to actually mete out that thing that makes humans exist, and that is creating families and procreating.
See, psychologically, when we're talking about the sexualizing of our people, primarily from the dominant society of the system of white supremacy, it had to be established in a very impinging way from the mental state.
This whole notion that masculinity is somehow toxic and detrimental to society is nothing but an attempt to emasculate Black malehood.
It's clearly an agenda. If you have two eyes in your head and you're able to see, you can see that it's an agenda, and it's an agenda to decrease our population.
It's always been about destroying the Black family. The family is the foundation of a people.
The heterosexual Black male is last on the pecking order here in America. If you're just a heterosexual Black man, how are you gonna beat the case? Because when you show up to court, when you show up to the job interview, when you show up to wherever, you coming in here as a heterosexual Black man, you have no power.
When Mark Twain confessed that we, white people, ground the manhood out of the Negro. Why ground the manhood out of the Negro? Because it's Black masculinity that most exposes the fraud of white masculinity.
We, as the progenitors of culture, the ones who are the fathers and mothers of civilizations, who taught all people, who people look to for social cues, whether they want to realize it or not, I think they feel if they can get us to adapt to it, they can get everybody to adapt to it.
If anybody should have a problem with European males, it should be the European female. Because everything the European male has ever learned to do to us, he first practiced on his own woman.
We need resources in education, we need resources in labor, we need resources in politics, we need resources in medical, we need resources in so many things, but they ignore that and they put millions and even billions of dollars to tell us that you need to really embrace your LBGT side. So these people have an agenda, and it's up to us to understand what the agenda is.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Poethnic Justice podcast, where I, your host, the Stormy Poet, seek to enlighten the masses about the complexities of racism and to permanently eliminate the system of white supremacy by utilizing the power of reading and writing/language arts, and by inspiring others to combat and defeat the system of racism through those means. And plus, I utilize this platform to provide quality literature to the people. Thank you very much for taking time out of your day to join today's program. And what I wanted to talk about today was the wonderful and masterful documentary I saw called Buck Breaking, which is a film produced by Mr. Tariq Nasheed. Most of you who are listening to this, if you're listening to me, you've probably heard of him, most definitely. And I would love for everybody listening within the sound of my voice to join this conversation, and feel free to leave your commentary in the section below. But I just want to give kind of my review on this really wonderful film I think it was masterfully done, as is much of Tariq Nasheed's work, if not all. And by the way, before I get further into that, I just wanted to let everyone know this is a space where we engage in intelligent dialogue and thoughtful investigation. We don't really deal in emotions and feelings over here. If you like this commentary, please feel free to subscribe and to obliterate that notification bell so you can stay up to date on any material that I produce. I try to post as often as I can. I post intermittently and as much as I can, but my goal is to do this full time. So if you could hit the like button and the notification bell, I would really appreciate it. But anyways, in the film Buck Breaking, they covered a lot of topics. Tariq Nasheed had some absolutely stellar guests as usual. Brother Kaba was in there, of course. His documentary appearances are just absolutely epic. Judge Joe Brown was in there. I thought his commentary was absolutely spot on, as usual. Dr. Phil Valentine, Rizza Islam, his commentary was exceptional. Lord Jamar, of course, and Tariq Nasheed himself. Just an all-round stellar group of bright minds and individuals who could give their perspectives on this much-needed topic that needs to be discussed. I thought this film was very timely, considering all that's going on today with the sexual agenda that's being pushed on black people and black children, and the wholesale effort to destroy black families. And this documentary pulls absolutely no punches, which is what I love about it. To be quite honest with you, I remember when Tariq announced it, it was about 2 years ago. And I remember him saying he was going to do a film called Buck Breaking. I remember seeing the trailer and everything like that, the pilot trailer that he did for it. And to be quite honest, with a subject as controversial as this, and going about it the way that he went about it, I honestly didn't know that this film was going to get out. I don't know what the powers that be are capable of. I didn't know how this was going to get sabotaged, or if it was going to get sabotaged, and if this film was going to even make it to the presses. So when he actually wrapped up filming, and when it actually became available for order, midnight that night, April 30th, I was on that website, the official website for the Buck Breaking movie. And midnight that night, I'm putting in my order right now, because you never know what could happen. And I wanted a copy of this historical film. I wanted it to be, because it is what it is. It's a war document. And I wanted to have this in my possession in case, something, God forbid, happened to Tariq. And make no mistake about it, this guy put his life on the line to produce this, not only this film, but the other films that he's produced. He put his family's life on the line. This guy has been, he's been swatted, which was basically an assassination attempt. They attempted to run in this man's house with him and his wife and his kid there on some, fake, we think this black guy has bombs. Somebody called in and said we think he has bombs and he's a terrorist, and they run up in his house with guns. So understand the danger that this man was willing to put himself in and his family in to get this information out to the people. Buck Breaking painstakingly went through a lot of different topics. They talked about white people feeling the need to police our hair, that by removing your hair, it's basically another form of emasculation, similar to them removing your genitals. In the movie, one of the brothers in there, and I did name some people, but I'm not going to actually quote people, because I want you to actually go and spend the money and invest in the money to get this information. And that's one thing we as black people need to do. It's important to invest time and money into getting the information that you need to empower yourself. And notice I said time and money, actual dollars. We have no problem putting all the money in the world into things that entertain us and things that are superficial. But when it comes to things that are actually going to make us better as a people, it's going to take dollars for you to actually get the information that you need to make you a vibrant and useful cell of the black collective body. But one of the brothers in the film talked about how your hair is a symbol of your essence, and that's what frightens them. That your hair signifies that you are aware of your own thoughts, that you are aware of your beingness. And I can attest to that at jobs I've been to in the past, where white people would make slick comments about my afro, which I'm still rocking right now, by the way. I've been rocking my afro and my beard for the better part of about 3 years straight right now, and I still take care of it. I treat it and take care of it, and I use all the natural products on my hair and stuff. My stuff don't stink, and it ain't all raggedy looking. But I've kept my fro and my beard just because I personally like it. But I notice a lot of white people in my past jobs would make comments about it. They would say stuff like, let's say I did get my hair cut, and if I do want to get my hair cut, I'll get it cut because I want to get it cut, not because, anyone thinks I should get it cut. But I remember in the past, white people would make comments when I did get my hair cut, like, I really like your haircut. Now, if we could just do something about that beard on your face. Little slick comments like that, and, your hair would look so nice if you could get it trimmed up, and I think it looks really cool, but you should do this and make these edits to it. And when I did get my hair cut, I remember it was like a celebration at this one workplace I was at. Everyone commented, "Oh my gosh, you got a haircut!" Like it was this huge thing, and it was a huge thing to them. And basically, it was a sigh of relief. And the movie talked about this. It was a sigh of relief because, as the movie stated, as the movie stated, you having your hair grown out, not caring about getting a edge up every week, and spending your time and your money on that. But the other thing is that in the movie they break down that this signifies to white people that you're aware of your own strengths. And they go further into that. Riza Islam, and I said I wasn't going to quote people, but I'm going to paraphrase him. But he mentioned something about that in the film. He talked about how anything that defies gravity or that kind of is an extension of you. And I talked about this in my book, the Surviving White Supremacy Handbook that I put out. That I'll give you an email you can contact if you would like a copy of that book. It's totally free, it's totally digital, and it's totally underground. It's not published or anything. I've done published books before, and I'm actually writing my fourth. But this particular book, I want to only give it to people who want the information. But Riza talked about this, and I talked about this in my book. But basically, hair and things like that are an extension of blackness. It's extending out from your body. It's clearly evident and in their face. And Riza talked about why they would castrate black men and kind of that extension of blackness too. So very deep film, and the commentary is absolutely excellent. Another sister in the film, it was actually a brother who mentioned this particular part, but he mentioned a book called Homosexual and Colonization, and he talked about how the book documented that all European colonies during colonization, the colonial period, were seen as basically homosexual playgrounds. So while there was slavery and things like that going on, it was also seen as an area where you could basically get your freak on, and you could engage in any kind of sexual deviancy that you wanted to get in, or any kind of thing that you were into, whether it be with other slave masters or whether it be with the slaves themselves. And they went in depth on that too, about homosexuality homosexuality. They brought up the slave master Thomas Thistlewood in Jamaica, and Thomas Thistlewood was a slave owner in the 18th century Jamaica, and he committed all kinds of sexual abuse against black men during that time. And again, they brought up slave owners having sexual relations with one another. They brought up James Hannon and Thomas Withers, how they were basically writing love letters to one another. I believe Thomas Withers was a child molester also. He had committed stuff in his own family. So this just goes to show you the sexual deviancy during slavery of the slave masters. And this just goes to show you some of the stuff that the history that the LGBT doesn't acknowledge. Now, if they were acknowledging this, that'd be one thing, and saying, hey, look, we have dark stuff in our past also that we need to acknowledge, and we need to acknowledge the sexual exploitation of black people, but they never acknowledge that. A lot of them will acknowledge systematic racism, especially that liberal crowd, but they won't acknowledge the part about how white supremacists, those who conduct systematic racism, how they believe they should have sexual access to anything, anywhere, at any point in time. Because that's one of the perks that comes along with white privilege. You should have the privilege to be able to fulfill whatever sexual desires that you see fit. That's a part of the conquering process. And when you acknowledge that, you have to acknowledge that there are people who are literally trying to shape the perception of the society in a manner in which they can portray black people as sexual objects, which is another form of dehumanization. Furthermore, there's another sect of the society, or the same sect, because white supremacy believes in killing two birds with one stone, if it can. So, on the other hand, it's, well, we believe we should have sexual access whenever we want, however we want. But number two, we believe in breaking and destroying the black family, because the family is the backbone of any society. The family is the bedrock of function, which is the opposite of dysfunction, which is what we've been suffering from over the past 400 years. If they can confuse us, or especially our children, especially if they can confuse our children from a young age, if they can confuse them sexually, then they've already conquered their mind. If they can get them to focus more on their sex habits more than the group of people that's trying to literally wipe them from the face of the earth, then they've got them. Another thing is, one of the sisters in there pointed out that a lot of the black male slaves were actually raped by white female sex owners, and that this was a part of buck breaking also. Because a lot of the white females out there who subscribe to feminism, they try to paint it as, the real problem is white male patriarchy and white male this and white male patriarchy. They don't bring up the white female slave masters who engaged in the same kind of rape that the white male slaves, the white male masters did. When they're talking about feminism, and when they're talking about, toxic masculinity, they leave out that part of the history of white women in this country. They also brought up Madame LaLaurie, a New Orleans Creole socialite and slave owner and serial killer. And not only did she whip her slaves, she engaged in all kinds of unspeakable tortures to her slaves and experiments, and just real sick, classic white supremacist behavior. She basically gouged out some of their eyes. She would do stuff like gouge out their eyes and poke holes in their skulls. She would do sick stuff like leave maggots in the holes of their skulls to infest the openings. And this is only the tip of the iceberg. She would do stuff like break, the bones of She broke the bones of a slave and made him walk like a crab. Just all kind of sick and twisted, sadistic stuff. One of her slaves, a young girl, she ended up, and they talk about this in the film, she ended up jumping out the window and committing suicide. Because it was, slaves lived in this mansion. She ended up jumping into the street and killing herself. She was so sick and twisted that a lot of the white people in that town, the other slave owners, they ended up running her out of town once they found out the stuff that she was doing to the slaves. Now, how sick and twisted do you have to be for other white supremacists to run you out of town? So I thought it was really good that they brought her up, because you typically don't hear, when you talk about feminism and stuff, you don't hear that side of the white woman as it pertains to their relation to black people. They'll have you thinking, the feminists will have you thinking that, white women and black women are one in the struggle, and that there's some type of comparative struggle in feminism to hundreds of years of oppression, and there's not. Especially when white women have a history of engaging in that kind of behavior alongside their white supremacist male counterparts. But family, the DVD is only $30, and I highly recommend getting it. This is definitely a life-changing film. I believe it definitely has opened my eyes to a lot of things. If not opened my eyes, it definitely articulated a lot of things I always knew were there. And plus, it gives you the intellectual firepower, so that when you hear certain messages, when you're subjected, and when your kids are subjected to a lot of the LGBT propaganda, and once you know the true motive of why they're pushing this, especially to black people so hard, now you have the intellectual ammo to counteract that. And family, I mentioned this in the third book that I put out that I mentioned earlier. Anytime you watch entertainment, as Dr. Francis Quest Welsing said, you're getting your daily dose of programming. Whether you like it or not, whether you don't think that, it doesn't matter how mentally strong you are. Anytime you engage in entertainment, you got to understand it's not meant just for entertainment. There's a other agenda behind that. What you're watching is meant for mind shaping also. It's not just entertainment. So you need some type of counter propaganda to counter that. To act as a anti-venom for all the poison that's being uploaded into your mind on a daily basis. And that's what this film is. Black people, this film is crucial to your mental health. And I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that. There's all this talk going around, particularly amongst white society, but there's all this talk going around about mental health awareness and stuff. We need to be aware of our own mental health. And we need to be feeding ourselves the type of brain food on a daily basis that's going to be conducive to having good mental health and having a healthy mind and a healthy perspective, because we need something that's going to counteract all the garbage that we're fed on a daily basis. And we like to say to ourselves, well, it's just entertainment, and it's not that serious. It is that serious. Just because you don't know that it's that serious doesn't mean that the people who understand us better than we understand ourselves don't think it's that serious. So take some time to invest in some brain food. If you got time to invest in movies and Netflix and buying shoes and buying clothes and consumerism, you can at least lend $30 for a DVD. And that said, I do recommend getting it directly off the website. I did hear a lot of people were having problems getting it off Amazon. When it comes to independent projects like this, grassroots projects, I prefer to give it directly from whoever's distributing it itself. I did the same with Race War. I did the same with which is Jason Black's film. I did the same with Gentrified. Gentrified is one of the best documentaries I've ever seen ever in life. And I watch documentaries all the time. I'm always watching the History Channel. The History Channel has a YouTube where they have a lot of free documentaries, and I watched it a lot as a kid. But I think Gentrified is absolutely phenomenal and masterful. Nothing short of. But I recommend getting it directly off the website, and I'll actually put the website in the description, just in case you don't remember it. After I stated several times, but the DVD is $30. I recommend getting it off the website because not only is it more secure in terms of, because like I said, I heard Amazon had a lot of problems getting it to the customers, and they ended up running out because they didn't know that the demand was going to be so high. This movie is the number one documentary in the world right now on Amazon, period. And Amazon didn't really anticipate that. But when you get it directly off the website, it's being directly shipped from, that person's particular warehouse, in this case, Tariq Nasheed. So I've always done it like that. I mean, I ordered, I think, one Hidden Colors off Amazon. I think it was Hidden Colors 1, and that was it. But also, they get most of the profits that way. The majority of the profits go to them if you order it directly off their website, because they have to deal with the distribution and everything. So really, it would be in their best interest whoever's making the documentary to get it directly off their website. And a lot of people got mad at Tariq for profiting off of it. And a lot of people out there saying he already has enough money and whatnot. And, why does he have to make so much money selling these films and everything like that? Which really irritates the hell out of me when black people say that. Dr. John Henry Clark, our master teacher, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Dr. Ben Yosef Yakinen, they didn't die rich people. Now, these were people who devoted their lives to enlightening us and empower us, who risked their lives enlightening and empowering us. And the way that they died, I'm sorry, call me a conspiracy theorist, but that stuff right there is suspect. So in essence, they risked their lives, if not gave up their lives, so that we could have a deeper understanding of what's going on in the world around us and the environment around us, and give us a fighting chance to actually survive this and actually eliminate this threat from society. But they all died broke. These master scholars with their doctrines, all three of the people I just named, and they're not the only ones. But what kind of a disgrace is it to us as a people when our master teachers died broke as hell? That's disgusting. Oh, and by the way, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing and Dr. Ben, Tariq paid for Dr. Francis Cress Welsing's funeral. He doesn't brag about it. He doesn't say anything about it. He doesn't brag about it, because when you're doing what you're supposed to do, when you're doing something that benefits the people, and when you really have genuine love for your people, you don't brag about it. You just get out there and do it. He put the money up because somebody had called. I believe I think it was Dr. Francis Cress Welsing's family members. One of them called him, and they were like, "Hey, we're taking donations for her funeral." And he was like, "How much is the funeral again?" "Oh, $5,000. Oh, let me just go ahead and send that." I mean, come on. Her people didn't see the value in her to make sure she was financially straight when she's out here extending. And it's not that she asked for that. Dr. Ben, Tariq Nasheed ended up paying for his medical bills later on in his life. When there's people who stand up for our best interests and who put it all on the line and who aren't afraid to stand up to the powers that be, we need to make sure they're straight. You're supposed to reward people who work in your best interest. You're supposed to give them money. Yes, I said money, dollars. You're supposed to pay them. You're supposed to compensate the people who put in the time and the energy and the money, and who have no problem with, being ridiculed and unliked. We have no problem paying for entertainment and worshiping entertainers and following entertainers and liking all their stuff on social media and paying for all their stuff. We have no problem for paying for people who don't even know that we exist. Now tell me how ass backwards that is. That's not what white people do. That's not what other communities do. When George Zimmerman murdered Trayvon Martin, all the donations that he got, all the money that he got, that he received, all the bail money that he got, that's how they treat the people who push what they believe in, which is anti-black racism, which essentially is necessary for, maintaining white supremacy. They were willing to put their dollars behind a cold-blooded killer who murdered a child, put in their dollars and stand behind them. NRA was willing to stand behind them and put dollars into it. This is how they show their appreciation for those who push their cause. Even people who murder, and we can't put money behind our master teachers and those who are going to bat for us, like a Tariq Nasheed. And it's not like, it was on some donation stuff. He provided a product and we gave him money for a service. I myself, I asked for financial contributions in the form of basically what anyone can give. I don't ask for specific amounts or anything like that, but I only ask for those because I want to provide better quality broadcasts and put more money into the business. But in his case, he's like, I'm offering a product and there's a price for it. That's what you're supposed to do as a person who's conducting business. And like I said, we have no problem rewarding those who entertain us, but who do nothing to empower black society. We have no problem spending money to empower them, but yet we don't ask them, why do they still need to make more money? We don't ask Will Smith or Jay-Z, why are you over there making all that money? No, we just blindly worship and follow them. We don't ask why Walmart needs to make all that money off the black community, even though we're their predominant consumers. No one is, let me go even deeper. No one's asking Jane Elliott or Robin DiAngelo, I think that's her name, Robin DiAngelo, or Tim Wise, where the money is that they made off their book sales, or the money, where's the money that they made off going to all these speaking events where they basically make a living and make a killing off speaking about racism as white people. No one's pocket watching them. No one is asking them, while that book money and those speaking fees, all that money is. No one's questioning them about why they need to make more money. Just think about that for a moment. And one more piece of praise I have to say about buck breaking was, as you all know, I'm a big advocator of reading and writing. I personally believe reading and writing, and I'm talking about as adults outside of academia, outside of school, sharpens the mind and basically expands the capacity of the mind to be able to think. As Albert Einstein quoted, education isn't the learning of facts, but is the training of the mind to think. And I think that's what reading and writing does on a consistent basis. And one thing I liked about the film is that it gave a shout out to one of my heroes, my literary heroes, Ida B. Wells, who I consider the epitome of black journalism. It was stated in the film that thanks to Ida B. Wells, the conception, or the perception rather, was that black men weren't being lynched. Well, the perception was that they were being lynched, and this is what the white supremacists, the narrative that they painted, is because they were running around trying to rape all these white women and they wanted all this sexual access to white women. But she exposed that wasn't the case at all. that they were being lynched, and a lot of her friends were lynched. Some of her friends were lynched. But she exposed that they were being lynched because they were business owners. And that white men were economically jealous of them. The effort to buck break and mentally destroy black men, which is basically another form of lynching. You might not kill them right there in front of you, but if you kill them psychologically, they're basically just zombies walking around. But the purpose of doing that, and the purpose really of white supremacy as a whole, is to not have to compete economically. If you can get the warrior class, if you can get the men, if you can get the builders, if you can destroy them psychologically, you don't have to worry about competing. And furthermore, you don't have to worry about competing against their offspring. And that's if they have offspring. When you destroy a black man psychologically, he really can't compete. The women are not going to see him as a man, as a protector, and as a provider. So how's he going to have kids if women don't see value in him? And the other thing I'll say about this film, which I found really personally appealing about it and constructive, was that they referenced, a lot of the speakers referenced a lot of books. They referenced a lot of books that you can actually go read and look up. It wasn't just, this is my opinion and this is where I'm coming from and this is how I feel and this is not. No, they referenced a lot of books. And the reason that Tariq did that and he allowed them to speak to that was because he wanted you to actually go and do follow-ups. He wanted you to go and spend the money. And, to my point earlier, this is not just about him trying to make money for himself. He's a businessman, but at the same time, if it was just all about him, he wouldn't put people in there to refer you to other books and other materials for you to go and reference. You can't get to a certain level of thinking where you're going to be useful to the group unless you actually put the time and the money into it. It's impossible. You can't just passively, every now and then, I'm going to read a passage, I'm going to read an article, and I thought that article about how racism is so bad, that was enough, and I feel that I'm just so outraged, and then you just go back to living life as you. For every article or every book you read, it's 10 episodes on Netflix. It can't be that way. It takes time and it takes energy and it takes actually sitting still and absorbing information and getting your daily dose of brain food. Like I said, the film's $30. Hell, half of you listening to me probably spent more than that on Grubhub in a day. Hell, I'm guilty of it. I engage in consumerism, but one thing I've tried to become better at, and I've tried to discipline myself in doing, is that I give money to people who are working in my best interest, whether it be media, whether it be black-owned businesses, whether it be anybody individual that's in my best interest. We have all types of apps and PayPal. You can shoot people money just because. I can't tell you how many black businesses were, they had actual business, but, I reached out to them, hey, can I just send you some money just because I want to see you thrive? Whether it be $10 or $20, it doesn't matter. $30 is nothing. $30 is a pair of shoes you're probably going to throw away 4 or 5 months later. If that. With that said, I want to thank everyone who has contributed monetarily. It is greatly appreciated, and I promise I will be investing that back in you, the people. If you're new to this podcast, welcome to the family. This is a space where we engage in intelligent dialogue and thoughtful investigation, not emotions and feelings. If you like this commentary, please feel free to subscribe and go ahead and obliterate that notification bell so you can stay up to date on any material I produce. I really do try to post as much as often. My goal is to do this full time so I can be able to bring you all increasingly more in-depth analysis over time. So please feel free to contribute monetarily to any of the links below. It would really mean a lot to me. My published works are also in the description, so please feel free to snag a copy. And feel free to check out my other free commentary and literary art at thestormypoet.com. That's thestormypoet.com. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to listen to me, and I'll see you all next time. And as always, one love and one justice. Peace.